Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. Make sure you are subscribed to the All This Math YouTube channel. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Also, share this video with some people. All right. Yeah. What are we getting into today? Parking permit math. So, quick little story. Earlier today, I renewed my parking permit, and for a long time, I never bought a parking permit. Right? I was being cheap. But again, I didn't do the math. I didn't mathematical. It wasn't a good mathematical decision because what would end up happening was from time to time I would get parking tickets from being parked on my block over 2 hours because there's a sign up. You know, we got limited time parking on our block. Um, but if I had had a parking permit, I would have never had to pay, no fines, right? And for a long time, I didn't even do my due diligence and find out how much the parking permit cost. So, it would have paid for itself, anyway. But at any rate, I renewed my parking permit today and it cost me $75, even though the first year I had it only cost 35. I guess that's how either that's how they reel you in with a lower price, or maybe the price just went up due to inflation or whatever. Right. So at any rate, it was $75 plus this $3.50 fee for a total of $78.50, right? For the year, right? For 12 months. So I was thinking to myself, because I'm always thinking of like potential math problems, right? I always think about math problems, ways to practice mathematics, practice with fractions, percentages, decimals, exponents, whatever, right? I'm always thinking of opportunities, right? Because that's what we need to do. We need to practice math on a regular basis. So whenever I find potential math problems in everyday life experiences, I create math problems. That's what I do. So this is a potential math problem. So I got three questions down here. What percentage is the fee? This $3.50 fee. What percentage is that? Number one. Number two, what's the monthly cost of my parking permit? We're not going to include the 350 in that part of the question. We're just going to include the $75, right? What's the monthly cost? Also, what's the weekly cost? Because one of the things, if you're a parent looking at this, what I suggest is for you to do as a parent is make sure your children have a firm understanding of unit price and unit rate, those two concepts, unit price and unit rate. So if they'll pay $75 for something that lasts a whole year, your children should be thinking mathematically about, well, okay, how much is that per month? How much is that per week? Right? Per month, monthly cost, per week, weekly cost. You could even get down to like daily cost. How much is it per day? Right? I didn't feel like getting into that here because I think that's something you could do on your own, right? Once I show you how to find the monthly cost if you don't already know how to do it, and find the weekly cost if you don't already know how to do it. All right, so look, what is the percentage? What percentage is the fee, right? So this fee can be represented as a percentage of the price of the permit, right? And that's something that we should think about, right? Because this is just an extra $3.50 fee. Some companies getting that because you're able to pay online. So they probably set up this system where you can do the online payment. And then in response to that, their fee that they charge on every transaction is $3.50. So I'm wondering, well, I'm on this particular purchase $3.50, but I'm curious as to like what that percentage breakdown is. So how do we figure that out? There's a few ways we could do it. Let's write an equation, or let's rewrite the question, rather, I should say. Let's rewrite the question, right? What percent is the fee? So including this number, we would say, or we could say $3.50 is what percent of $75? $3.50, and don't get upset, but I'm gonna write this diagonal across the board. $3.50 is what percent of $75? $3.50 is what percent of $75? Right? That's a way to frame that, right? That's a way to reframe this question. What percent is the fee? $3.50 is what percent? See, what percent? What percent? What percent? What percent? But if something is a percentage, it's got to be a percentage of something, because a percentage is another way to represent a fraction. Like a numerator is a fraction of a denominator, right? The numerator is the fraction of the denominator in that particular fraction, right? So like 3/4. 3 is a fraction of 4. 3 of 4. 3 out of 4, right? 3 out of 4 parts. All right. Similar to a percentage is also that. A percentage has to be a fraction or a percentage of something. And in this case, it's of the $75. Let me say this. I made a video on my channel probably like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, close to like when I first started the channel. I think I made a mistake on that video because I think I took the percentage. It was a question similar to this. I think I took the percentage of the final amount as opposed to the percentage of the original amount given. Well, maybe I did it right, but I had a question in my head about that. Like, what should it be? But it's the percentage of the original amount is what we're looking for. All right. So $3.50 is what percentage of 75? Why 75? Because that's the original amount. So we represent 350 as a percentage of this or a fraction of 75. So we can translate this into an equation. We keep the 350 as a number. So that's 3.5, right? And the word is becomes equal sign. I could have wrote the zero. In case you're wondering, where the zero at? Where the zero at? I could have wrote it, but you don't really need it, right? Because that zero doesn't have any real mathematical value, right? Technically. The word is the equal sign. What? The word what? The word what is a variable, right? It's a variable. We could say, let's say letter P. Let's say P for parking permit, right? And then percentage, the percentage means you could represent that as 0.01, right? That's one way to represent the symbol percentage. So times 0.01, right? And then of 75, the word of means multiply. Of means multiply. So I'm not going to put the multiplication sign, but if you just put parentheses next to parentheses, that represents multiplication. Of what? 75. Put the 75 in there. So now we have an algebraic equation. 3.5 is equal to P times 0.01 times 75. Where did all this come from again? 3.5 came from $3.50. Where did the equal sign come from? The word is. The word is means equal sign. Where did the P come from? The word what? What represents a variable, an unknown value, or a variable, P. Percentage times 0.01. Of means multiply. Again, multiplication. Of multiplied by what? 75. Now, if you're wondering, why do you need to know this? Why does this matter? Because in life, you are constantly surrounded by percentages. And it is important for you to understand percentages. Even if you feel like, well, I could just ask my calculator. Yeah, sure, you can ask your calculator, but there's also something called operator error. You have to know how to use the calculator. You have to know how to put the proper numbers in the right places in the right way, right? Sometimes you can't just say, oh, I'm gonna just use my calculator. You have to know how to use the calculator. A lot of us don't know how to do that, right? And also, if you know how to do this for yourself and you're not intimidated by math, then you'll realize that a lot of times you don't even need a calculator sometimes, right? Or a lot of times you'll realize that. And it's also just good to know things, right? We shouldn't be so anti-intellectual. We need to know stuff. We need to take pride in knowing stuff, right? We shouldn't be so happy about being ignorant and just not knowing stuff. Like there are a lot of people out here, they're just happy about not knowing stuff and just happy to say like, oh, I don't know that. I could just ask ChatGPT, and they cool with that. This is the world we live in, right? Not to say that that's a new phenomenon, but it's very prevalent. So I want you to think about that. If you wonder like, why I got to know this, why I got to know this, and the thing is, actually, you don't have to know it. It can help you if you do know it though. So anyway, 3.5 equals P times 0.01 times 75. Now I want to simplify this because my goal is to solve for P. Once I solve for P, then I will know the percentage, right? So first I'm going to multiply this together. So I got 3.5. This is wild. I'm doing this problem diagonal on the board. So 0.01 times 75 is 0.75. So watch what I do. Watch me work. 0.75P. Now what just happened? I multiplied these two numbers together, and that gave me 0.75. 0.01 times 75 is just 0.75, right? So now I got 0.75P. Now, if you're wondering, well, why is the 0.75 in front of the P now? Because it's called a coefficient now. Now we're treating it like a coefficient, right? It tells us how many P's we have. We have 0.75 P's, right? 0.75 is equivalent to the fraction 3/4. It means we have 3/4 of a P. All right. So now we're about to get P by itself. How do we get P by itself? We get rid of the 0.75. Now, mathematically, how do you get rid of the 0.75? By doing the opposite operation from what? From what 0.75 is involved in. 0.75P means 0.75 times P, right? Whenever you got a number next to a letter and there's no symbol in between, that means they're being multiplied by each other. So if you ever want to get rid of something in algebra, you got to do the opposite operation. So first you got to know what operation it's involved in right now. And then you got to know, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? So if I know this is involved in multiplication right now I got to think, okay, what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. Not addition, not subtraction. Division. So that means we're going to divide by the thing we want to get rid of. We want to get rid of 0.75. So we're going to divide by 0.75. And we also are going to be balanced because math, algebra is all about balance. All about balance. So if I divide by 0.75 on the right side of the equation, I'm going to divide by 0.75 on the left side of the equation. So that cancels out. Those become 1. So I got 1p over 1, which is just p. And then I go 3.5 divided by 0.75. Now, what I'm about to do is I'm going to grab a calculator for this, right? I could figure it out mentally, but I don't want to. I think this is a ideal situation where a calculator is a valid tool, right? Because it's more efficient to use a calculator in this situation. Every situation is not a calculator situation. This is one of them, though. This, in my opinion, is one of them. So 3.5 divided by, because I know, dig this, right? I know that 0.75 is a factor of, well, not a factor, but 0.75 is divisible by 3 because 3 divided by 0.75 would be 4, right? Because 75 cents goes into $3 4 times, right? So that would be 4, right? And then I got 0.75, then I got 0.5 left over. So 0.5 over 0.7. I mean, I could have figured this out. 0.5 over 0.75, that's what, 2/3? Yeah. 0.5 over 0.75. 0.5 is like 50 cents. 0.75 is 75 cents. So the 0.5 is left over. And then over the 0.75, that's 2/3 because 25 cent goes into 50 cent twice. 25 cent goes into 75 cent 3 times. So that's 2/3, right? So 4 and 2/3 should be the answer. I'm gonna confirm it with my calculator though. So 4 and 2/3, which would be, and we also should memorize the equivalence between fractions and decimals. 2/3 is equivalent to 0.67 or 0.6 repeating, but we rounded off to 2 places at 0.67. So that's gonna be 4.67, right? 4.67%. Damn, that's almost 5%. Almost banging you for 5%. See, that's why you got to do the math and do these calculations because $3.50, you'd be like, oh, that's not a lot of money, right? Relatively speaking, because you're already spending $75 anyway. So just charge them another $3.50. But when you think about it percentage wise, that's just a surcharge. That's like an online service fee, right? 5%, almost 5%. That's wild. That's diabolical. But let's see if the calculator agrees with my math. So 3.5 divided by 0.75. Yeah, I was right. Yeah. So, but I still stand on what I said. Like this, in terms of efficiency and saving time, this is a calculator question. Even though I was able to figure it out, but you see how that works, though. I was still able to figure it out. So if I didn't have my calculator, then I could have just, figured it out like I did, right? Because I have number sense, right? I got a lot of number sense from teaching math for 20 years and also from practicing math for a long time, for the same 20 years while I was teaching it, plus time before that. But again, I mentioned the term number sense. So parents, if you're watching this and you're wondering like, why we got to do it like why the teacher want my child to do it like this or do it like that, it's to develop, if it's done properly and has been taught properly, whatever the concept is, whatever the skill is to develop number sense. Because I broke that down. I was able to think, oh, well, I know 3.5. I'm basically using a partial quotients method, right? So I'm breaking 3.5 down into 3 and 0.5, right? 3 and 0.5. That's like a partial quotient method. That's some of that new math that people always complain about. But I don't want us to complain about it because it's helpful, right? So if you're wondering like why your child got to know this, why your child got to do it this way, it's because it's going to help them in situations. It's going to help them be more mathematically flexible. And at the end of the day, they're also going to be more confident in their math skills. So they're not going to be one of these people that's intimidated by math. Because what happens when you're intimidated by math, you end up disqualifying yourself from competition in the STEM disciplines, what I like to call METs, because I think math should go first before the engineering, technology, and science, right? Because it's the gateway. Math is the gateway. Math is the gateway and a gatekeeper that either gives people access to the engineering, technology, and science, or it keeps people away from the engineering, technology, and science. Right? It's like a gatekeeper, like a bouncer at the club. A lot of people don't get in because math be like, nah, you ain't coming in here. If you can't do the math, you can't be an engineer. If you can't do the math, you can't go into architecture. You can't go into computer science. You can't become a doctor. You can't do the math. Right? It's just ain't no way around it. Right? But you see, I was able to break it down and like figure it out. Like, okay, 3 divided by 0.75. I know that that's 4. That's an even 4 because 75 cents going to $3 4 times. But you see, just being able to go through that thought process and had the confidence to be able to do that. Like, and yeah, I'm a teacher, but still, like, even if I wasn't, like, I know how to do this, right? That's what the new math is supposed to do, that the Common Core math is supposed to do. Now it's got to be taught properly, and it's got to be taught by a teacher that believes in it and understands it themselves, right? That's another thing. But again, parents is something you can learn too. I got a lot of videos going over a lot of the so-called new math all up and through this channel. So yeah, so that's what's the fee? All right, the fee is 4.67%. Now, the monthly cost. All right, monthly cost. How many months in a year? 12, right? So it's a 12-month period. So all you would do is take the 75 and divide it up into 12 equal parts, right? To find out how much it is for each month. So we would do 75 divided by 12. And this video is getting kind of long, so I'm about to just take out my calculator again just to save time. 75 divided by 12, $6.25. That's the monthly cost. $6.25. All right. What's the weekly cost? You got to know how many weeks in a year. It's 52 weeks in a year. It is not 48 weeks in a year. I want you to keep that in mind. On average, each month has about approximately 4 weeks. So somebody might deduce that, oh, well, if that's the case, then it's 48 weeks in a year. It's not 48 weeks in a year. It's 52 weeks in a year because every month is not 28 days. Every month does not have exactly 4 weeks. Some months have 4 weeks and a couple of days, right? So keep that in mind. There are 52 weeks in a year. That's information for you to memorize based on the calendar that we use, right? The Gregorian calendar, if you're in the Western society, right? So we do the $75 divided by 52. 75 divided by 52. Just like here, we did 75 divided by 12 because there are 12 months in the year in our calendar, right? So now we got $75 divided by how many weeks? 52 weeks. So by doing division, we're taking the $75 and we're breaking it up into 52 equal pieces. That's what division is. We're dividing it up into 52 equal pieces. So we got 75 divided by 52 is $1.44. So when you think about it like that, you're paying $1.44 per week. You know? So if you looked at this and you was like, $75, that seems kind of expensive. But then you look at it, you're like, oh, it's only $1.44 per week. A lot of times it's how they get you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the infomercials from back in the day, they would say, oh, about it, it's only the cost of a cup of coffee per week, right? They try to sell you some junk, right? But it is, but this is something you actually need, right? Well, something I need, right? Because I don't want to get parking tickets. So, So anyway, $1.44 per week, that ain't bad. $6.25 per month. That ain't bad. And if you wanted to find the daily cost, you would just one way you could do it, you could do 75 divided by 365, because it's 365 days in a year, or you could take this amount, because this is for the week. How many days in a week? 7. You could take this and divide it by 7, and that's like 20 cents. $1.40 divided by 7 will be even 20 cents. It's a little bit more, the extra 4 cents. What you gonna do with that? That's like 20 and then 0.04 over 7. Just something real small. So approximately 20 cents per day. So 20 cents per day. I mean, that math helps you to put things in perspective. So if you're looking at this, like I said, if you're looking at this like $75, that's expensive. That's a lot. Well, think about it like this. You're paying 20 cents per day. Or you're paying $1.44 per week, $6.25 per month. I'm sure it's drinks at Dunkin' or Starbucks that cost more than that, right? And a lot of people do that 5 days a week. They go to work every day. They go to work Monday through Friday, right? Do that 5 days a week. So think about it like that. But anyway, make sure you are subscribed to the All This Math YouTube channel. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Make sure you like the video. Don't forget to like the video. Share this video with some other people. And also, if you're concerned about making sure your children are even more prepared for math class, go on Amazon and buy my book, How to Use All This Math, Volume 1. How to Use All This Math, Volume 1. Volume 2 coming soon. All right. See y'all later.